assignment using that tool, using that method. So not paying attention or not watching while I'm doing it really puts you behind a wall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down here on the bottom left, I'm gonna click the plus symbol for new layout. Add a new layout there, it calls it layout 1, that's okay, I'm gonna change some stuff up down there in the wall anyway. I'm gonna single click on that layout. It should open up your page setup manager. So in this box right here on the bottom left, we've got a toggle that says display when creating a new layout. If yours did not or does not pop this up, I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna pretend it didn't happen. What you can do, there's multiple ways of doing that. You can go into your options dialog box, OP and spacebar, plot and publish maybe, nope. Don't see, here it is down here at the bottom. Create viewport new layouts and show page setup manager for new layouts. So in your options dialog box, if yours does not pop up, that's one way to get it to pop up. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel it. Another way to get it, whenever we go on one of these tabs down here, other than our model tab, we're in paper space or we're in layout space, not model space. So when we go in one of these tabs, AutoCAD puts that layout tab up there on our ribbon, up there at the far right on the top. So I can select that tab. One of the options that I have here is your page setup manager. So I can just click right there to pop it up manually, but then make sure and click this little button, this little toggle down here. I don't see any reason that you would not want that to pop up whenever you create a new sheet. I can't see where you wouldn't want the page setup manager to pop up, but to each his own. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over here and pick the new button, telling AutoCAD I'm gonna build a new page setup manager, a new page setup for this sheet. I'm gonna call this my 8.5 by 11. Telling AutoCAD what size it is and also giving it that name so I'll know. I'm gonna tell it okay. I'm gonna tell it replace that one. I already had one in there. So up here at the top right, our plot style table up here is always monochrome. Over here, we've got our laser jet back there, and I do need y'all to do the print thing again tonight. Go ahead and write it up here. We're still having printer issues. There was, I think, 2 on this side of the room that may still have sticky notes on it, some white sticky notes. That's where we had a couple earlier in the week that weren't plotting or weren't printing. So we went through and tagged those. But tonight before you leave, all you have to do is just open up a Microsoft Word document, type your name on it, and send it to the printer and see if yours prints. I want everyone to check their printers before their computers before they leave to see if they print. So I've got my plot style table, I've got my printer, I'm gonna verify my paper size to letter, I'm gonna verify that this says layout, verify right here in the bottom middle that is set 1-to-1, which these are default, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then also verify right down here on the bottom right that it has landscape setting. This is very similar to your plot style or your plot dialog box. Lots of times if you have aerials on there, like an image, you might want to hit plot transparency. That way it's not so bright. We use a lot of transparency when we have images or JPEG type files in our drawings. We'll do something with that later on this semester also. So once I set my monochrome, I set my printer, verify the rest of it, I pick OK, set current and close. So the first thing, it did put me a viewport on there. I'm gonna go ahead and select it and come over here to my properties and change that layer to my viewport layer so I don't forget later. My viewport layer is a no print layer. All right, so I've got my drawing in front of me over here, my 8.5 by 11 border and title block. I'm gonna go back to my home tab. I'm gonna change to my title block layer, which is called border in this one. Remember, you can change any of these colors that you want. I'm gonna start off by drawing a rectangle, REC and spacebar. I'm gonna pick a point down here to the bottom left, because I can reposition that rectangle after I get it drawn. The handout in Blackboard says that that outside border is 10.5 inches horizontally, 7 3/4 inches vertically. Once again, learn your formulas. They're very useful. In this case, I'm gonna use my relative rectangular coordinates formula at x comma y. I've already picked one corner point. AutoCAD is asking me for the other opposite diagonal corner point. I'm gonna tell AutoCAD you're at that point, so I type in the at symbol. I'm gonna tell AutoCAD the point you're looking for, the other corner of that rectangle, the diagonal corner of that rectangle, is 10.5 horizontally, comma, 7.75 vertically. There's my border. So I can then go through and move it if I need to, just to center it a little bit better possibly. Down here on my title block, so I need to draw that line above my title block, so I'm gonna go into my line command, L and space bar. For those of you that don't know how to use the from option, I'm gonna try to force y'all into doing it, but there's a lot of ways to get around it. A lot of people would go through and draw a line from here straight up 3/8 of an inch and then straight across. That's great, and it will not hurt you on your title block, but it will hurt you in industry, putting lines on top of lines. So when AutoCAD says specify first point, I'm gonna hold my shift key down, right click with my mouse for my object snap override menu. I'm gonna select the from option. Now I didn't have y'all in basic, so I teach this real heavy. I push this a lot in basic. I'm not sure if y'all had it pushed on y'all, but what I'm about to do is something that we do quite frequently. Somebody asks us, how do I get there? How do I get somewhere? How do I get to your house to pick you up? We say, well, you know that Chevron station over on the highway? Oh yeah, I know where that's at. I know where that's at. Okay, from there, go down 2 blocks on the road next to it, take a left, go down 3 blocks, I'll be standing outside. We can tell AutoCAD to do the same thing. I want to start that line straight up from that bottom corner right there. I want to start it straight up 3/8 of an inch. That's what my drawing shows. So I do the from option. AutoCAD in my command line down here says from base point. Where's your known point? Where's the Chevron station? I'm gonna say, here's my known point, this bottom left corner. I know where that point is. AutoCAD knows where that point is because it just popped up that little object snap. So obviously AutoCAD knows where that point is. I know I want to start that line straight up 3/8 of an inch. So AutoCAD says from where? From base point. So I'm gonna pick this as my base point. AutoCAD then says, so it doesn't change much. It didn't change anything on my drawing. I saw it flash a little bit. I don't know what that was, but it didn't change anything visually on my drawing. What it did was down here in my title block, it added the word offset. That's AutoCAD's way of saying, okay, I know where the Chevron is. Where do I go from there? Once again, at x comma y, I'm gonna tell AutoCAD you're at that point. So I did the at symbol. Go 0 horizontal. I don't want AutoCAD to go anywhere left or right. Comma, vertically I want AutoCAD to go up, so it's gonna be a positive number, not down, a negative number. So my positive, my y value is 0.375, 3/8 of an inch. So I type in the formula at 0, 0.375 and hit enter. AutoCAD found that point, no problem. I'm gonna go straight over here, perpendicular into that line. Space bar out, space bar back in. Now I need these little vertical lines in here. The first one is 2 3/4 straight to the right. Don't think globally like that. You're new to AutoCAD, think of what you're doing. I need to start that line. But more specifically, I need to start that line 2 3/4 inches straight to the right of that point. So once again, I'm gonna hold my shift key down, right click with my mouse, tell AutoCAD from. AutoCAD says from where? I'm gonna say from this corner, this end point. This is your base point. This is my known point. I know how to get to where I wanna start the line at, straight to the right, 2 3/4. AutoCAD knows where that end point is, so I'm gonna pick that as my base point. AutoCAD pops up the word offset in my command line. I'm gonna type in the formula at, telling AutoCAD that's the first step of these formulas. If you've got your dynamics turned on, it's already like that. So if you wanna see how that works with dynamics, I'm gonna hit F12, turn that on, L and space bar. It says specify first point, shift right click from bottom left corner. AutoCAD says what's your offset. You can see it's already positioning for a horizontal and vertical. It's already got two boxes right there with measurements in it. Unlike the old, whenever you were drawing a line and it would say a distance and an angle, because I'm doing the from option, AutoCAD understands it's going to be X and Y coordinates. So I type in my X coordinate, which is 2.75, hit the tab key to jump to the other box, type in my vertical dimension, my Y coordinate of 0, and hit enter. Whoa, that ain't right. At 2.75, comma 0. That one started out right. Maybe because I hit the comma key, I'm not sure. So now I can just draw a straight up perpendicular space bar to complete my command. Now me personally, I don't care for the dynamics because I don't want to see stuff on my screen except for my drawing, except for stuff that I'm used to seeing on there. This isn't that bad of a thing. I mean, I can work in it. It's not like it's rocket science or anything. So my next distance is 1.75 and enter. I'm gonna offset this line over 1 3/4, this line over 1 3/4, space bar out, space bar back in. My new distance is 1 inch. Offset that one, offset this one, space bar out, space bar back in. My new distance 0.75. All of these are dimensions straight off that sheet that I put in Blackboard for you. There's the numbers that I'm putting in right down here across the bottom. There was my 3/8 of an inch right there. Like I said, the only thing that isn't on this document is your text height, which is 1/8 of an inch. So now I've got my border and all my title block lines drawn. Any questions so far? Said, hopefully this is stuff that you've seen or done before. I'm gonna go ahead and Control S and save that real quick. So the next thing I need to do is put my verbiage in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to my text layer, or title block text is what it's called on this one. This first box is my title, second box is semester, third box is name. So the second and third boxes right here can be plain text. They're not gonna change throughout this class. Down here at the next to the last box is your class. That can also be in plain text. So I'm gonna come up here and go to my single line text. AutoCAD says specify starting point. I don't wanna start at the front of this. I want it to be centered on my text. You always want your text inside cells like this, inside your title block. You want it to be centered, left and right and vertical. So I'm going to go into my justify to tell AutoCAD I want to lock it down by the middle center. So when AutoCAD says specify starting point or start point, those of you that aren't using your right click in these shortcut menus, you really ought to. Once you learn what's going on down there, there's your options right there. I've got two options down there in my command line. Instead of having to look down there, I've got mine set to right click and hold. So you've got multiple options out of that right click on your mouse. Right click and release is enter. Right click and hold, I've got it set to pop up the shortcut menus. So I go to justify, AutoCAD says enter an option. I'm gonna pick MC, middle center. AutoCAD says specify middle point of text. So right now I'm putting the semester in this box right here, but I want it to be centered. So when AutoCAD says specify middle point of text, I'm holding my shift key down, right click with my mouse to my object snap override menu. I'm gonna select mid between 2 points. Then I can just pick any two opposite points. I can do opposite end points diagonally across that box, corner to corner. I can do opposite midpoints on these little short lines that I did. And AutoCAD found that center, no problem. AutoCAD says specify text height, 125 and enter. Rotation angle is 0, I'm gonna hit enter. My text height is fall 23. Space bar back in, same thing, shift right click, mid between 2 points, opposite corresponding points, enter for height, enter for angle, last name. Same thing down here, shift right click, mid between 2 points, opposite diagonal corners, enter, 2319 for class number. So those are just plain text, no problem, probably done that quite a few times. The next one we're gonna do is gonna be attributes. So this may be new to you, creating attributes. Attributes are just simply a form of text, but once you lock it into a block, that text can be modified. So over here, we've got our plain text. I just opened up this one in the block editor to show you. So if I double click where it says fall 23, that's just plain text. It's just gonna ask me if I wanna edit that text. Same thing with my name, plain text. Title is an attribute. When I double click on it, it shows you your tag prompt in default cells. So I'm gonna cancel this, close this, and I'm gonna create, discard the changes. I'm gonna create an attribute. So I want my attribute to be here. So an attribute, simply put, is something that's inside a block, similar to this pen right here. This pen could be construed as a block. A block in AutoCAD is just something that's normally made up of multiple entities. It can be just one entity. It can be a rectangle, a circle, a line, but normally it's multiple entities, all assembled together, kind of like our border and title block. But just like this pen, our border and title block has some things that we want to change on a regular basis. The title is going to change every project. The scale may change. The date's going to change. The sheet number may change. So just like this pen, we can set up some items that are just there. The rectangle, all the little lines, just like this little grippy piece right here, it's just there. This barrel right here, it's just there. This pocket clip, it's just there. But yet we've got this button on the end and some internal pieces of this that are mechanical. Even though it's locked together as a unit, I'm not going to say, hey Luis, give me that that little cylinder with ink in it and that little ball on the end and that tip and that rubber grippy thing and that pocket clip and that barrel and that button and that spring. No, I'm going to say, hand me that pen, please. It's all locked together as a unit, but some part of it is mechanical. Some part of it is changeable. So what we're going to do is when we get through with this title block, we're going to lock it together similar to this pen as a unit, as a block. But we're still going to be able to change our title, sheet, date, scale, all of those very easily, just like on your 11 by 17 that you already have in there. So this one is going to be my title area. I'm already in my correct layer. So to put that attribute on there, I'm going to go to my Insert tab on the top left on your ribbon. And then I'm going to select the Define Attributes button. This is where we go through and create those mechanical parts of our block, those changeable or editable parts of our block. Not editable, editable. So, don't get confused. So if I pick Define Attributes, it pops up my Attribute Definition dialog box. Now over here on the top left where it says Mode, Lock Position is the default and is normally what I use. I've never frequently used any of these others. I did open a drawing one time that had the invisible one set for an attribute. Still don't know what that was. I double click on the title block, it was something that somebody else had made. I double click on the title block and here's this box that says job number or something like that. So I type my job number in there, go on, type in all the attributes, hit OK. No job number showing up on there. It was set to invisible. Still don't understand. So everything on this top left should be good, but we're going to set that to lock position if it isn't. On the bottom left should come default to specify on screen. If not, we're going to select it. Up here on the top right, so there's those three boxes, or those three fill-in text boxes that we saw when I went to the block editor on that 11 by 17. Whenever you fill these in, the first one right here, tag, is something that AutoCAD knows it by. We're giving that attribute a tag or a title or a name in AutoCAD's world. It can be whatever. For me, the easiest thing for me to remember is tag and prompt are the same. So for tag, I'm doing my title, so I'm gonna do title. For prompt, that's where we want AutoCAD to say, fill this in. This is what you're about to fill in. You're about to put the title in, or you're about to put this in. So for prompt, once again, I'm gonna go ahead and put title, or something like it. That's what's gonna tell me to put the title in that box right there, by the word title. I don't need, please put the title here. I don't need any words like that. Title is plenty. I've got title blocks that I've built that have title 1, title 2, title 3, because it was like the title of the project, the address of the project, and I think the city and state. So, you know, I mean, I just put them all as title 1, title 2, title 3. I knew what they were based on that. This third box right here is a default. If you know that with any kind of frequency, that is going to be the setting, like our sheet number, we know every project is going to have a sheet 1. Some of them may have a 2 or a 3. On our sheet number, we can set that default to 1, and that way that's one less thing that we have to change every time. For your title area over here, we don't know what the title's going to be until I give it to you. So we're going to leave that as blank on our default. So then we come down here to the bottom, justification. Once again, we're going to set that to middle center, because we want that attribute to be locked just like our text we just put in right there on the center of that cell, the center of that area. So I'm going to justify it to middle center. Now, unlike your text command, if I were to get out, or when I went back into my text command to put my name and to put that class number in there, it retained that justification. So after I put the semester in there and I hit enter or spacebar to go back into my text command, it didn't default back to specify starting point. It was gone with the setting of middle center. It said specify center point. So the attribute does not do that. So every time when you go to set up a new attribute, so we're going to do title, scale, date, and sheet number. In each one of those, we're going to have to remember to go back and change that to middle center. It is not going to retain that every time. Whereas your text height, 1/8 of an inch, it's going to retain that. But just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and type it in. Just to make sure it didn't accidentally pull in a 3/32 that I may have used on this drawing earlier. That may still be set in your drawing also. So for the first time, I'm going to set that to 1/8 of an inch. And then after I do these next attributes, that's going to stay on there. It's that middle center that you have to remember every time to go back to. Do not pick annotative. Like I said, if you do annotative, it's like stepping in dog crap. It's on you. You can't just say whoops and then pick your foot back up and, you know, that little pile's gonna say, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't mean to step on me. Let me wipe this off your shoe. No. Once you pick annotative, that drawing is now annotative. There's a lot of text items I'm not going to be able to help you with because they're going to be locked and I don't know how to undo that. So I set that stuff up, title, middle center, 1/8 of an inch. I pick OK. AutoCAD says specify starting point. Once again, shift right click, mid between 2 points, opposite diagonal corners of that area. AutoCAD stuck that one right there in there. So I hit space bar to go back into it. Everything is good. Like I said, on this left side still, you've got a new option available to us right now. So if you were stacking those options of those attributes up vertically, and you want to do like note 1, note 2, note 3, note 4, note 5, and have them all stacked vertically, you can come down here and select this button on the bottom left, align below previous attribute. We're not doing that. So the next one that we're going to do is going to be our scale. So up here, I'm going to type scale for the tag and prompt. We have no default here. We don't know or any anticipation of what the scale is going to be. So once again, I'm going to come down here to my justification, set that to middle center, so it's all repetition now. Pick OK, shift right click, mid between 2 points, opposite corners, opposite points, space bar back in. Next one is date, middle center, Okay, shift right click, mid between 2 points, opposite diagonal corners. And our last one is sheet number, space bar back in, sheet for the tag, sheet for the prompt. In this one, I'm going to put a default in there, default of 1. That is going to be the only one that has a value once I lock this in the block. It's not going to show those other items. It's not going to show that blank or the word sheet. It's not going to show the word sheet. It's going to show the number 1. It's not going to show anything in the title area, the scale, the date. Those are going to be blank because they don't have defaults. You'll see that in a minute. So I'm going to go middle center, okay. Shift right click, mid between 2 points, opposite diagonal corners, and that one's in there. So any questions about what I've done so far on the title block? All right. Whenever you do your title block, we're going to want it to ask us for your attributes, to ask us for the title, scale, date, and then sheet number. So when I started working at Bramer Construction, I started on Monday. The previous drafter, his last day was the Friday before, so I didn't have anybody to ask. So I walked in on day 1, went back in there, checked out my office, got seated in, got me a login, opened up my computer, opened up their master drawing, and I said, oh crap. I'm looking at model space, and that's where I had only drawn up to that point. I had not used those layout tabs. I didn't know how to use those layout tabs. So I went up there and I was like, hey, I went to one of the guys up front, not even anything to do with the drafting part. I'm like, y'all have a standard title block, right? So yeah. Do y'all have like pre-printed pages that y'all just load into the plotter? Because I've worked in that industry before, where the title block was already on a blank sheet. You loaded that sheet in, printed your drawing, and moved on. I was like, do y'all have that? No. We have that roll right there. Right. I went and sat back down thinking, what the hell? I noticed there was something else down there besides just layout 1 and layout 2. It had a number or sheet 1 or something like that down there. And I clicked on it, and boom, there's layout space, there's paper space, there's my border and title block. I'm like, I got some studying to do this week. So the first week, that's all I did pretty much was learn how to use some blocks and how to use these attributes. So once I figured it out, they had some blocks over there, part of their title block, that were revisions. So it had a list of revisions, and you would have stuff like the date, the sheet, who did it. The first one was just the number. We had revision 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have 10 of them. And then over here, I think was I don't know, maybe the second one was the date. And then this one, longer one, was a revision, and this one was drawing. Who drew it? So I went in there after I went to go do one of the jobs, and then we changed the job, so we had a revision. If y'all don't know what a revision is when the drafter creates a drawing, prints it out, and hands it to someone else, and they go off with it. If we make any changes to that drawing, we have to make a revision. A revision will be a number, usually on a normal industry, there would be a little box down here in the corner that would have 1, 2, 3, 4, stuff like that in it. At Bramer, we had number 1 was like issued for, 1 was for review, 2 was issued for construction, and then any other ones that we used were also issued for construction. So if I'd already sent those drawings out to the field and they had started working on them and we had a change, and I said, hey, we got a new revision to that job. So maybe it was revision 3, and I would put the date in, the revision, what changed, put that I did it over there. That way, if they call from the job site and say, hey, the concrete people came out here, and they poured an extra 10 feet on the end of this building, past what it shows on our drawings. And I could be like, well, what revision are you looking at? I'm looking at revision 2. Okay, we've made revisions since then. We're on revision 4 now. You're using an old set of drawings. So now we know to make sure and get them a new, clean, fresh set of drawings. But with that simple question of which revision are you looking at, I was able to find out if they were using the most current drawing or not. So anytime that drawing leaves can go somewhere to be fabricated, built, or something like that, and then we make changes, we add a revision. So I opened it up and I was like, okay, the first job I got on it needed a revision. I said, okay, I need to go through there and put this stuff in for number 3. So I double clicked on my border and title block just like y'all do now. And it starts popping up, what's the sheet number, what's the customer, what's the client, all this stuff. And then when it gets to the revision part, the first box, it said revision date. And I filled the date in. Next box, revision nature or whatever it was for that one. And then DWN, who drew it? Put my revision in, no problem. And I put that revision in, and maybe if I put revision date 12/6, it popped up somewhere down here at the bottom. I put in the nature of the revision. It popped in up here. I was like, uh-oh, I got a problem. Let me try it anyways. I put in my JP. It pops up somewhere totally different. The person that made it, that worked there before me, I think his name was Nick, he just didn't know how to create these blocks correctly. So like I said, I played, I studied, watched, read, all this stuff to learn how to work with this, because this was a world I'd never worked in. I'd never worked in paper space. I'd never used blocks like this. I'd never even heard of attributes at that point. So what I had to do was just some learning on it. But what I did figure out is that when you're selecting your objects, so all of these are just individual objects, lines, text, attributes, they're not locked up into a pin yet. It's just a bunch of pieces laying on the desk. It's not as simple as a pin yet. It's not a unit. Whenever you're doing this and you select the objects, if you pick the attributes in the sequence that you want to be prompted, and then you can just select everything else, AutoCAD will put those in that order. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna copy it to my clipboard. I'm gonna copy these items to my clipboard, and then I'm going to paste them back in as a block. This is one of our blocking methods that I'm gonna be teaching you over the next couple of weeks. So this is just your standard clipboard block, but I'm gonna do Control-Shift-C. That is not just copy to the clipboard. Control-C copies it to the clipboard. Control-Shift, I'm gonna turn that F12 on. Control-Shift-C copies it with a base point. So when AutoCAD says specify base point, I'm gonna type in 0,0 and enter. Mr. P, why didn't you just pick that corner down there as a base point again? Because in a minute, I'm gonna erase all these items right here. Once I get them copied to the clipboard, I'm gonna erase all these items off of there. That corner is not gonna be there in a minute, but I wanna stick it right back where it is now. So when I go into my Control-Shift-C, I pick my base point. AutoCAD says select objects. I pick my base point of 0,0. First thing I'm gonna do is select my attributes. So I'm gonna select title. You can use any method of selection you want. I'm just gonna pick them, but you can use your crossing methods. You can use your windows, whatever method you want for selection. So I picked my 4 attributes in sequence that I want to be prompted. And then I'm just gonna do a little crossing window across here to get the rest of my border and title block. That's the reason I drew it with a rectangle. I don't have to zoom out to pick that top line. It's all part of this bottom and side lines. It's a rectangle. It's kind of like that pin. It's all one unit. So I drag this across here. I look down in my command line. I see 16 total. That's what you should have when you create your 16. So I see that, I say 16 total. I hit enter to complete the command. I've now copied those items to my clipboard. Now I'm going to go into my erase command, E and space bar. AutoCAD says select objects. I'm just going to type in P for previous. I'm going to type in P and space bar, and then space bar again to get rid of those. Instead of having to do the window or selection methods, you will notice that my viewport is still on there. Do not grab your viewport. It is not part of your block. So is everybody still with me? I went into my Control-Shift-C, copy with base point. I selected my attributes in the sequence I wanted to be prompted. And then I just selected the rest of my border and title block and hit enter. Then I typed in E and space bar for the erase command. I typed in P and space bar. For those of you that don't know, previous P and space bar And a modify command just tells AutoCAD to go to your last modify command. Copy, rotate, mirror, edit text, any of those are modify commands. Erase is a modify command. So if I just erased an object and I go into a modify command and type in P and spacebar, AutoCAD will tell you that no object's found, because the last thing you did, erase those off your drawing. It doesn't say, oh, well, that was an erase command. Let me go back to the last modify command before that. AutoCAD doesn't do that. It goes back by default to your very last modify command, of which erase is one of. All right, so I've got those items copied to the clipboard now. To bring them in, I can do Control V, which is paste from the clipboard, but that's not going to lock them together as a unit. I want to lock them together as a block. So to bring those units in and to bring them in as a block, I'm going to do Control Shift V. There's my border and title block. AutoCAD says specify insertion point. Let me move down here and pick the corner of my, title block's gone. That's why I type in 0, 0 as my base point. So now when it comes time for insertion point, I type in 0, 0 again. AutoCAD pops up your enter attributes dialog box. You can see that they are in the sequence that I selected them. I pick OK. AutoCAD pops it right in there where it was. You notice that title, scale, and date do not show up because they don't have a default. The number 1 down here shows up because I put a 1 in there. So now to edit this title block, all I have to do is double click any part of it. I can double click that line right there. Title, scale, date, sheet, the order I told AutoCAD to put it in. I can double click this regular text right here. Title, scale, date, sheet. The only thing that will vary is if I pick an attribute. The only attribute I've got showing right now is the number 1. If I double click on the number 1, remember double click editing. If I double click on the number 1, it automatically goes straight to that. So had I done a sheet 2, 3, 4, stuff like that, and done like I showed you earlier, came down here and right click, move or copy, then instead of having to go through all of those attributes, instead of just double clicking when all I need to change is the sheet number and having to enter down to it, I can simply double click on that attribute and AutoCAD goes straight to it. So Z spacebar, A spacebar, that's my personal preference. Yes, you can double click the mouse wheel for zoom extents, but you can see that like my title blocks behind my command line and behind this other stuff down here. Zoom extents zooms into all of your drawn entities. So it zooms into that border and title block around the outside. Z spacebar, A spacebar is my preferred view. It's zoom all. Zoom all shows you your sheet. It focuses on your sheet size as opposed to the objects that you have drawn. So now I can easily see my title block stuff down here if I want to go modify that. Nothing is really hidden down here on the bottom. So one last thing to do, I'm gonna right click on it. I'm on that tab down there that says layout 1. I'm gonna rename that to 8.5 by 11 so I know what that sheet size is. I'm gonna move over to that one that I put in there that's numbered sheet 1. I'm gonna right click on it, rename it 11 by 17. And then because I'm picky and I want them in a specific order, I'm gonna click on that one and just drag it down here to the end. So from left to right, it's 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, and then you can do any other ones you want across there eventually. Z spacebar, A spacebar on this one, so that one's good. This one looks good. I'll go back to my model space. Go back to my object layer, which is where I want to start when I open up a drawing and start working and drawing objects. I'm not going to go into my dimension layer first. I've got to draw something before I can dimension it. I don't need to be in my title block or my text layer because I'm not going to put text on there first. You're, I'd say 99.9% of the time, going to be drawing objects first. So I switch back to my object layer, Control S. My master drawing is now saved with 2 border and title blocks. I've got all my layers in there. It is now ready to be opened up and start on a project. Anytime you change something, so if you've got your chassis base open, so I'm gonna do an 8.5 by 11 border on this one. That's great for practice and everything. Get you some practice doing it, but you're just doing it in this drawing. It is not gonna be in the next drawing. So on stuff like that, even if you do it in another drawing first, make sure and go back and put it in or do it to your master drawing also. So that one is now ready to go. Any questions? All right. Open up your textbook. Your next two assignments are in chapter 18. The first one is on page 544. Mr. P, that board and title block wasn't our assignment? Nope. That's getting you ready for your assignment. So on page 544, chapter 18, on the top left, you will see problem number 9. Anybody that does not have their textbook with them, you can come up and take a picture of mine or somebody else's, so you can be looking at something while we're talking about it at the teacher. I've got mine opened up to the first sheet. The first one we're gonna do is gonna be chapter 18, problem 9. The second one we're gonna be doing is chapter 18, problem 13, I believe. That one on the top is one. Just flip to the other one after everybody gets their picture. So everybody that needs pictures got it? This one's out on top of it. Now these y'all can work on and finish up in class. I'll give y'all till 7 o'clock next week to finish these, because there's a good chance you're gonna need a little bit of work on it when you get here and have some questions. So on these two, you can work on them when you get here, but I'm gonna show you something else that will make it a little bit easier, possibly. So both of these can be drawn on the same border and title block. You've now got an 8.5 by 11 and 11 by 17 border and title block. You can draw these on the same drawing file, and then just go through and put different viewpoints. So here's the new thing I want to show you. Look at the second assignment, the page 546, chapter 18, problem 13. You will see that that one has a little chart in there. Does everybody see that? Here is going to be something that I learned a couple of years ago up there at the Drainage District that I utilize any chance I can. In AutoCAD, we know that we can make that chart just by using the text command and the line command. I don't have a problem with it if that's the way you choose to go. However you choose to do it is great with me, but I just wanted to show y'all this and try to do some other stuff this semester using it, because this is a very good tool. Now in AutoCAD, if I go to the Annotate tab, AutoCAD has a table command. AutoCAD's charts and tables, excuse the French, suck. They're not very user-friendly. They're hard to modify. In case you do something incorrectly, you might as well erase it and do it all over again. Here is a better option for that. I'm going to open up Excel. I'm going to create a simple, basic Excel chart. Now your text heights in Excel, let me look something up real quick, because I've got a measurement and number for that. I don't see it. I'll try to find that info for you as far as your text height in Excel. I think it's 10 to 14, but I'm not really sure. So on that chart right there that you see in Blackboard, you see on your sheet, on that chart right there, make all of your text, if you're doing it in AutoCAD, make all of your text 3/30 seconds. Everybody got that? All of your text 3/30 seconds. And I've got a chart that shows the options. I don't remember what class I have that dumped in, so I'll try to see if I can find that and get it to you for your text height. So what I'm gonna do is I'm simply gonna replicate this chart in Excel. So the first box right here is whole. Second box is quantity. Third box or header, diameter. And then right here I've got A, B, C. Next box is 212. 0.500, 0.375, and 0.250. So that quick, I was able to fill in those boxes. The next thing I'm gonna do is highlight them, and I'm gonna tell Excel to center them vertically and horizontally inside their cells. I could also go up here to change my width if I want to. I can change my height if I want to. I'm gonna make that an even 10. I can change my height, but I usually let the software set that. I also want to put a border around all of these, so I can highlight all of those boxes, right click and go to Format Cells. In this box, I can click Border. I can tell AutoCAD which type of line I want around the border, which for me on this one's gonna be this one right here. And I can come over here and I can pick points inside this little window, or I can just pick the button right here and tell AutoCAD to outline it and inside it. Then I pick OK, pick somewhere else, boom. There's your cell, there's your little chart that you need. The next thing I'm gonna do, so once I look at this and make sure everything's good, it's not a problem, I can easily go back and modify these charts. What I'm gonna do is save this. So I'm gonna save it into my folder for this course. If you haven't done it already, you really ought to make you a folder for drawings for this course. So I'm gonna go into my LIT, accredited, standard, AutoCAD 2319 drawings folder. And I'm gonna call this chart. CH 18-13, chapter 18, problem 13. And I hit enter. Now I'm gonna go back to my AutoCAD drawing. So I'm gonna pretend that I've already went through all the save as. I went through and done all of my drawing. I've come over here to my border and title block. I found it, my viewport, and I got it all set up. Now I want to add that chart. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch to my text layer. So I'll talk slow through this. And like I said, if you wanna do it that way and you're struggling with it, I'm gonna give y'all the first hour of class next week to complete these projects. And by the way, these are sheets 1 and 2. Problem number 9 is number 1. So this is chapter 18, problem 9 and problem 13. So problem 9 is going to be sheet 1. Problem 13 is going to be sheet 2. Number 9 is on 11 by 17. Number 8 is on 8.5 by 11. So 9 was 11 by 17. 13 was 8.5 by 11. So here's how we bring that chart from Excel and lock it into our drawing. The beauty of it, like I said, is Excel is a lot easier to modify and manipulate versus the AutoCAD chart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my insert command. Down here we've got a button called Datalink. This Datalink is gonna set up a live link between that Excel file and my CAD drawing. So I select Datalink. pops up my Datalink manager. Like I said, I'm gonna talk slow for those of you that are writing. Once this box pops up, I'm gonna select create a new Excel data link. So I pick that, AutoCAD says give me a name. I'm gonna go ahead and give it that name, chapter 18, problem 13, okay. Now I've got to go through and tell AutoCAD where that file is and set that link up. So over here on the right hand side, we've got this little ellipsis button. Don't mistake that with the word ellipse, there's a difference. Ellipse is a squash circle. Ellipsis is this little browse button that only shows the 3 dots, not the word browse. So I pick the ellipsis button. I'm gonna go through and find this one, so I'm in the right folder. I'm gonna go to my drawings, there's my chart, 18-13, I select that. So now I've told AutoCAD what Excel file. The next, below that, the next thing is path type. I'm gonna select full path. And then because this Excel file that I've got open only has the one sheet on the bottom, sheet 1, I haven't created additional sheets, which the ones that we use up at the Drainage District, we've got one that's got about 14 or so charts, different pages. I love working with engineers. So it's only got the one sheet, so I don't have to select or specify. If you've got multiple sheets in that Excel file, you're gonna need to tell it which sheet you wanna link to. You can link to all of them at different times, but you have to do it one at a time. So I tell it what sheet, and then I'm gonna pick OK. Takes me back to my Datalink manager page. If the chart or the Excel chart isn't too large, it will show you a preview. Some of the ones that we use, it just says it's too big a file to preview or something. That's okay. I'm gonna pick OK to complete the data link. So I've now set up a live data link with that chart. Now I need to put that chart in there. So remember earlier when I told you AutoCAD's tables suck? I'm gonna do the table command, but I'm not gonna use AutoCAD's tables. I'm gonna tell AutoCAD to use that data link. So I come up here and I select the table command. This is all the stuff that AutoCAD gives you that, like I said, I don't like it at all. So all I have to do is right over here on this insert table dialog box, on the left-hand side, just down a little ways, it says from a data link. I'm not starting from an empty table, that's AutoCAD's charts. I'm gonna do from a data link. I'm gonna pull this down and select the only one that I have linked, chapter 8, problem 13. I'm gonna pick OK. AutoCAD says, where do you want it? Bam, right there. Need to change something? I knew it wasn't gonna work when I wanted it to. We'll get that later. So I've now set up that data link. I'm gonna go back to my Excel chart. I'm gonna type in some more cells. And then I'm going to save this Excel chart. When I go back to my AutoCAD file, over here on the bottom right corner, you've got this little symbol that looks like a 2 links of a chain. Normally it's gonna pop up a little window, one of those little thinking clouds right there that says a data link has changed. Do you want to update? For whatever reason, it isn't performing like it normally does, but I never expect it to anyway up here. I select that data link or double click that data link button, right click, there it is. I can go into my data links dialog box and it'll show me that. I'm just gonna right click on it and say update all data links. And it should change that chart right there. There it goes. Normally you can double click on it and it will automatically go to that Excel file. Maybe if that Excel file is closed, it will. So it's your choice how you want to do that chart on there. On problem number 13, you can do it using either method that you want to. And like I said, we'll do these after an hour into class next week. These will be due. Now here's something that we're going to set up as a standard. So right now, let's look at this first one right here, chapter 18, problem 9. Whenever you go to put this on there for the title in your dialog box, we will take the CH from chapter and the chapter number, the PR from problem and the problem number, and that will be the title of your drawing. So this page that I'm looking at right here with the chart is chapter 18, problem 13. So I can double click on any part of my border and title block. For title, CH 18, PR 13. Anytime that we have an assignment out of the textbook, that is how we will get our title for our title block. CH from the word chapter and then the chapter number. PR from the word problem and then the problem number. And then of course this one would be the sheet 2. So I can double click on that, change that to sheet 2. My scale was maybe full. If it's full scale, you've got two options for what to write in there. First thing, it's FULL, not FOOL. You can either write full for the scale, or you can put it out verbally, 1 foot 0 inches equals 1 foot 0 inches. I don't mean that you can verbally tell me. That is called a verbal scale when you write it like that. Versus something like 1 to 2, that's a rational scale. Or when you see those boxes like we use up at the drainage district, it has something like this. Maybe all of this is colored in, this one's colored in. It says 0, 50 feet, 100 feet, 50 feet. So there's lots of different types of scales or types of ways of showing our scales in our drawings. We'll learn some more about those in civil in 4th semester. And I just pick OK, everything's great. So the drawing portion and the dimensioning portion should not be an issue. It's just, here it is, honey, draw it. It's that easy. Though drawings aren't that easy, there's a little bit of time to them. But this chart thing right here is really neat, something that if y'all learn how to, or if you learn how to use it, you can utilize it in my pipe class in 4th semester. But I've learned to use it a lot where I'm at up there at the drainage district. We have a lot of charts that we put on drawings, and I've learned to utilize this Excel. It's a lot more fluid modification when you gotta change stuff. All right, so any questions about what you're working on for next week? All right, that's it. Let's hear that printer going. Y'all got drawings due? Y'all got that little 30-minute drawing or hour drawing from 2 weeks ago. What's the